What's up, everybody? Jason from Jason's Exotic Reptiles. Today we're going to talk about, can you make a living off breeding reptiles? Short answer is yes, you can absolutely make a living off breeding reptiles. However, it's not as easy as most people might think. You can't just buy a couple reptiles and be an overnight millionaire. Now, before we dive into if it's truly viable for you, you need to determine what your actual income level is that you would make this and consider it a successful business. Is it $50,000? Is it $100,000? Is it $200,000 a year? All of these are attainable numbers. If you told me you want to go from making nothing with reptiles to over $1 million in a year, I'd say that's probably not feasible. You need to be patient, let time play itself out, and you need to determine before you get into any of this if being a business owner really is for you. So this truly is a business, and if you don't treat it as a business, then just keep reptiles if you enjoy them. You need to make sure you like reptiles to begin with, because if you're working with something you don't like, you're not going to like the business and it's not going to last. Generally, I'd say you need to like people, or at least like the sales of selling to people, and you need to have a little bit of grit to you. You need to be able to make sure you can answer calls and emails and messages from sales platforms pretty much any time, day or night, because time is valuable and time is of an essence in this. There's a lot of options. If you don't respond to people quickly, they're going to move to the next person. Most of the stuff people breed and make in reptiles is not unique enough for a customer to hang around for 3 days waiting for you to respond. You maybe have about 12 to 24 hours max before that customer says this is a bad experience, there's no communication, and they move on to somebody else. So let's dive down a little bit into the math and the logistics of if you want to make, let's say, $50,000 a year. To do this, we need to make some assumptions. We need to think that, first, what is gross profit versus net profit? So gross profit is like your salary. Let's say you make $20 an hour. That is your gross profit. Your net profit is what you actually take home after taxes. So if you make $20 an hour, you may actually only be putting about $15 an hour in your pocket because everybody takes a cut before you actually get paid. So in our terms, we're going to be strictly talking kind of on gross profit, but a little bit on net. So gross is your total, net is what you actually put in your pocket at the end of the day. So in our $50,000 example, $50,000 gross, we're going to use some general assumptions that every animal you make is $500. Now, some may be more, some may be less, but let's just say $500 is your average animal cost. You need to make and sell 100 animals in order to make $50,000 gross profit. Now, assuming you have expenses of care, feeding, electricity, overhead, travel to and from the shows, to and from shipping supplies, printer ink, paper for the printer to make the shipping labels, let's just say that's 50% for easy math. So your gross profit is 50, your net profit is $25,000 a year. That's not bad if you have this as a side hustle. Some people are living off $50,000, and that's great. I mean, that's because after taxes, honestly, to make $25,000 a year take home, you're probably making about $35,000 to $40,000 a year. So all of this stuff can roll into a sizable living for some people. Now, if you want to step it up, let's just say $100,000 a year example. So $100,000 a year means you need to make 200 $500 animals, or you need to make 100 $1,000 animals, or somewhere in between. Now, that's not really challenging. There's certainly some things you need to consider, as don't plan for the perfect plan. If you say, I'm going to get these 10 pairs of snakes, don't assume that every pair is going to take. When you're doing this math to do your business planning, make sure you take some conservative margins. Let's say you get 50% of those to actually breed, and then you get a viable 25% of those, or 50% of those to actually breed. So you're really only going to be making about 2 to 3 pairings of good, viable, healthy litters. Now, this is for calculation purposes, so just err on the conservative end, especially if you're considering quitting your job and going full-time reptile breeder. I would say the nice part about this is you can get it moving as you're actually working your job, and it's not something that you have to fully quit your job. I fully work a full-time job. I have other side businesses, and I have this, which is my reptile business. It's quite profitable, and I've done really well. But patience is key. Build it up over time. You don't need to go buy all the racks and all the expensive caging and everything all at once. You can build it, which is, I think, a really intriguing business model for a lot of people, is you don't need to go full speed ahead. You can dabble in it, get comfortable with it, and grow and expand as your comfort level goes up, as you learn your expense ratios, as you learn how to cut expenses and keep your profits growing. All of this starts to grow and continue to accumulate, and you can get yourself comfortable growing and expanding the business to the point where now you have a model that works. Things you have to consider as you continue to expand is you can't just go out and buy animals, produce animals, and expect them to all sell within a month of actually making them available. So there's holding costs, and that can be very stressful, but this is with any business you start. The nice, unique thing about reptile breeding is you can ease into it. It's not like you're buying a brick and mortar store. It's not like you are set in a location, and if you don't make a certain amount, you're going to go under. You can scale up into it, which keeps the costs reasonable, palatable. You can work your job, have this as a side income, and when you're ready, you can go full speed. And if you want to quit your job, you certainly can. Let's expand this to just a $200,000 business model. Now, using the same example, you're going to have to sell 400, you're going to have to make and sell 400 $500 animals. Or, as I mentioned, you could do $1,000 animals. At this point, your branding should be really good. Your marketing should be good. Your social media should be grown. And it takes time to do this. It might take you 10 years to get to this point. Maybe longer, maybe less. Really depends on the effort that you put into this. But scalability is certainly a concern with reptile breeding, is unless you are going to expand into a warehouse and turn this into actual full-time business, which it certainly can be, that's when your operating costs go up. Now you really have to make sure you have expenses and all this cost into a really good tracking spreadsheet. You need to really understand what it actually takes versus what you're taking out. Once you start growing in profit and growing in scale, usually your expense ratio can go down a little bit unless you grow into a warehouse. Now you have to start bringing employees in. You might not be making 50%. I found that year over year, I'm consistently operating at about a 40-ish or so expense ratio. So I'd make about 60% profit, 40% expenses. Some years are different. I've had a pretty bad breeding year this year. I had maybe 15 or 16 slug outs. The females that did give me good babies, there was low baby count. So that is a risk of a reptile breeding business, is these are living animals. This isn't tires at a tire shop where I buy $100,000 worth of tires and I know I'm going to sell them at this probable rate. I have this expense markup on them and I'm going to get a guaranteed profit. The tires are probably not going to go bad unless I can't sell them for 10 years. My snakes, there's health complications, there's vet visits, there's other things involved. So really make sure before you dive full speed into this that you're prepared for the full long journey of it, because what you don't want to do is go full speed ahead, realize this isn't for you, and then back out. So I always encourage people to ramp up slowly, make sure that your pairings and the things you're picking align with your vision, and also you're trying to predict the market. Get a mentor, pay for a mentor if there's nobody available to just do it for free. Many people don't understand how much effort it takes to get into this, how much behind the scenes goes on, the constant cleaning, the constant feeding and maintenance. So just ramp up slowly. Get yourself familiar before you go buy 100 reptiles and get in over your head and want to sell everything off before you even made anything on it, because you're going to take a loss if you do that. One thing that you really can't touch and put a price tag on is how rewarding this is. This is something that if this were purely financially driven, looking at the numbers, the dollars and cents, it's going to be really hard. But the rewarding component of breeding, making new genetics, seeing the litters come out and watching that baby that you've been trying to make for 10 years finally being made, all of that is just incredibly rewarding in the big picture of things. I really enjoy helping people understand how to do this right, how to care for their animals properly. And that's something that you can't put a price tag on. So if this is resonating with you, it's probably a business that is aligned with your goals. I cannot tell you your goals. Only you can. I can't tell you what is your financial number where you can quit your job. I can't tell you if you should quit your job. I still work my job, and that's for my own personal reasons, but this is something that you need to decide on your own and figure out if this is going to be rewarding for you and yourself. And if you're just looking to start a business so you can quit your job, There's probably easier businesses for you to start that don't involve as many emotions. If you just care about the numbers and the financial component of this, I would not really recommend reptile breeding for you. I maybe treat it as a hobby, maybe do it for fun, do it with your kids, do it with your spouse or your friends, but don't try to turn this into a full-time business because it's going to let you down. It's very heartbreaking at times when you care for these animals and things don't go right. This year was a tough year on me. Things didn't go right, and that's okay. That's part of it. I was already mentally prepared and knew this, but the first couple times it happens, it can really bring down your morale, and it's not always, look at all these great babies I made. It's very hard to kind of just continue going with this. There's a lot of ups and downs, and you need to be mentally prepared for all those ups and downs. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to check out my Patreon if you want to dive into this more. We have monthly chats, talk about this extensively. Check out my website if you're looking for breeding stock, and until next video, let's keep it moving.